Data protection in time of crisis. What a title. In a time of crisis, it is indeed. COVID has shown us how fragile our global network, our global economy basically can be. But we are finding ways to manage the crisis. And I hope our conference is also showing all of you that even if we can't be at the same venue, we can still address the most important topics that are simply too important to, shove them off to a later time. They simply cannot wait to be addressed and to be discussed. ShanShan Pa, she's head of compliance and privacy, US and EMEA at Alibaba Cloud, and she will now give us insights on how we can navigate the crisis data protection-wise. She manages global privacy and compliance at Alibaba Cloud and deals with security and privacy compliance aspects of the cloud business. Prior to that, she worked in both an internal and external compliance and audit functions in the areas of finance, pharmaceutical, and technology. Glad to have you with us today, ShanShan. I think it's very early at your place, so happy to see you so awake. The floor is yours.
Hi. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Rebecca. I'm really glad to be here. Thank you for the opportunity to be at the Bitkom event, especially in time of crisis. We're talking about the privacy, how important it is right now for other organizations. Speaking of, by doing that, I will give a high overview of today's session. I would like to cover their certain areas such as supply chain sustainability, business continuity, product and service design, and last but not the least, awareness training for all those aspects in the time of crisis for data protection. So let me go over the supply chain sustainability. Why this is so important for us right now, even though this is not a topic that usually come out with a privacy conference. So because this pandemic definitely show us a scenario that one never thought before. A lot of physical connections were interrupted, and supply chain that relies heavily on the physical level got hit the most. For example, offline and surface areas. And of course, based on that, some chain has broken and lost the connection. So by redoing that and then cope with the difficulty and challenges, there are a lot of times that we need to catch up fast and then also have a better solution. But in that time, especially in time of crisis, data protection might not be the first in mind whenever business is in a survival mode. So as a result, many businesses, of course, forced to speed up their adoption for virtual environment. For example, apps, cloud, and other IoT, etc. So virtual adoption enables agile operational models and also digital transformation. For example, food delivery service, and online education, they are all facing different type of problems. For food delivery services, we all think that they have been on the world for a long time. Even before the pandemic, everybody using it as well. But because of the pandemic, they actually create a surge in their business. Sometimes the original existing model might not work. Anyway, they might have to go all the way into virtual through app or through any other online web service. So in that case, when new situation involved, data protection, for example, using a new app service or providing more hygiene or other type of control over the health and this in the surface time, then there's additional step need to be considered, and the additional process it was implemented. So how those new process or steps are considered for customers' data, that's area need to be aware of. Online education, of course, is pretty straightforward. Before the pandemic, there are online classes, but right now the scale just kind of moved to a different level, new platform. So the different challenge online education is facing is not only the scale, but also how to implement the in-class situation to fall online, and the schedule and with different age of the students from middle school, from high school, or even to all the way to university or post degrees. So with more people involved in the audience or the other side of the platform, so risk and also regulatory requirements also involved as well. Different privacy standard might apply in newer situations. So, we all should ensure your data protection requirements communicate to each of the service provider on your new supply chain, on your new business model, and that they aligned with yours, which is most important. Because if there's a gap between your standard on providing privacy service to your customer, then between you and your vendors, then there are great chances that risk level will increase as well, because you guys are on both different standards. You are well protected, but your vendor might not. So that will create area for risk to happen. So virtual versus offline, definitely not rush into it without proper security or privacy controls designed and implemented as well. Because it's whole new different world. It's easier to go virtual, go online, but it's really hard to continue to manage and stay online, stay virtual, at the same time stay compliant as well. An integrated chain of service that connect all the silos will be ideal through different service and models layer of the cloud, for example. If you're an user that you actually adopting, for example, basic infrastructure as service, cloud service, for example, and you also have your own platform as service. On top of that, you also build up a SaaS solution to supporting your business. So all these layers, different service provider that involved, you need to be sure that your goal of data protection stays the same, and they will communicate through. At the end, new chains definitely brings new process and bring new exposure for personal data involved. So for us, or data protection professionals, this is definitely the area to help out the business to look into it, to be aware as well. So next, business community. So definitely this year, for some, it's a black swan. It's one event that happened, not expected. Okay, but for some others, it's a perfect storm. So some might not even survive throughout this whole storm. So business resilience definitely got a real test this time. But my vendor was that has to do with data protection. It actually has to do with everything with data protection. So for example, let me just walk through some areas that to draw a background of that. Traditionally, for financial industry, it was always required business continuity and process and procedure in place in time of crisis, regardless, because we all know money is very important for many people, especially during the crisis. So they have been trained to perfect in those areas before. One might not notice on a daily life or normal time, but when crisis happens, how they react to the to the crisis overall is really impressive. So when even moving to the virtual world, business continuity is still an important area to make sure that different scenarios are all connected, because the current development is still unfolding, that we're not sure how long it's going to be, and what's the actual solution will be, and then is at an accelerated and a dramatic stage anytime. So that being said, there are areas, one for business definitely to consider in their surviving mode, or in time of a deal with difficult times. Of course, the most important resource, people, employee morale might be low or impacted during the time of crisis, because we are all individuals ourselves dealing with this whole situations ourselves as well. How company can help their people, employee go through is the number one concern as well. So, of course, the scale and capacity of a business, how to handle crisis during this time, whether as mentioned earlier, as an online service, full blown increase surge of the business demand as well. One need to consider different aspects and possibility right now. And this is not just right now. You should think about it. I mean, usually business should have that in mind, regardless, for the business continuity. And connectivity is a real task because everybody is online. Internet is quite busy, and then more busier than before. So to ensure the connectivity of all the events going on in the daily business is really important, because many people like us, we're still working from home. So home network definitely is bearing a lot of business traffic as well. And security resilience, for example, anti-DDoS, we heard a lot in the market that whether there's security concerns or business, many business, regardless that's public service or if a private sectors, they all face different type of the security issues in this time. And also, since everything's in a virtual, backup has become more important. How do you do backup in the cloud, for example? This is often the question that will be asked. However, there are actually two layers to it that many times business might not be aware. So, for example, there is, for cloud users, there is definitely a data level of backup of your business, including your systems, your data within the systems. Of course, some business might involve sensitive information as well. So those protection level should stay during the backup as well. Also, in another layer is your service provider that providing the cloud service at an infrastructure level. They might have to, they actually in charge of their own business backup as well. So you need to make sure, like I mentioned before, previous slide, that different chains has the same requirement and then a knowledge on the level of controls. So they backup strategy match your backup strategy, vice versa, or they can fully support your strategy as well. one most important thing is drill or instance response at this time. So definitely for your next instance response practice, you should include a current situation or similar if you haven't considered it before, because we usually find the normal or popular instance situation to incorporate in the annual practice or quarterly practice, etc. But sometimes we do have to be creative to think some of the extreme because there are unexpected things happens that we don't just practice the normal share of the risk every year. So especially this year, for data protection on the data breach area, and there are different type of breach happened as well. For example, we heard really many times this time is about the ransomware attack. Some might not consider that as a breach, but some regulations, for example, in the US, the HIPAA, if a system was attacked by ransomware, although the data itself is encrypted, was not exposed, but the fact that the system was infiltrated or the system is accessed with unauthorized access, it will consider as a breach as well. So any business that should consider not only the data itself is secure, but also the system that's surrounding that data is also important. Because right now, it just make easier everything move online in one place for many of the adversaries to attack the different users or accounts or business. So this is so this sounds like more about security, but this is actually never only about the security. It's data protection as well. As we all know, privacy cannot live without security. So it's time to revisit DPI if it's the same process or different process that got impact with the current situations. For example, a certain service with additional feature involved, or for an offline move to online, this can consider a new review, revisiting your DPIs as well. Data protection impact assessment per GDPR. Also, you might want to revisit your risk tolerance level at all. For every business, their risk tolerance level is different. So maybe the management think right now we can tolerate more risk or less risk. So your DPI risk assessment or your other control perspective should shift and align to the new tolerance level as well. Even the level didn't change, however, the other factors that affect that might change as well. It's worth mentioning that this year the 2020 version of the German C5, the requirements put a lot of emphasis on BCM as well. So this is really in time to show how important the business continuity for all us right now. Another part is the product and service design. I want to focus on the security by design and privacy by design. Again, this is something that is not new. We all heard about that before, whether it's pandemic or not. So we at a risk that environment change all the times. So new design and then should involve both privacy and security at an early stage. So for existing product and services, for example, during the pandemic, more instance happens around the virtual communication that we use to connect people together. So whether that's the surge of the usage or different new features, so new features require redesign of the existing features, or new features add up to address the security and privacy problems to ensure while we all move to the internet, we also not sacrifice or data protection efforts. Why security and privacy go together? So often, one easy, obvious answer is, often security problem leads to privacy problems. When there's a security issue that might lead to a data breach down the road. So definitely hand to hand, a chain that goes together and throughout your design phases. For new product and service, this is in the new environment as well. For example, the new contact tracing apps and the virtual education classes. So this is the opportunity to do it right at the first time. And then we should always use this opportunity to do that right at this first time. It's more easier to do that right now with all the privacy and security concerns and the controls implemented than to deal with after the product is already went to the market. So of course, system demands and capacity increase significantly, and so as a regulatory aspect also need to be considered. There's many new guidance for the data protection authority from each countries, and also many industry best practice and the organization also brought up whether the importance of controls for security and privacy at every stage of the service level. So for example, there are a lot of, cloud service provider, for example, that the new EU Cloud Code of Conduct is an area that I think is also mentioned in this event as well, to focus on how to implement controls for cloud service that business can utilize and review. Last but not least, the awareness training. So this is time when training become more important. Why? Because many parts of the world experience working from home models. I'm working from home pretty much also as well. So I'm sure many other people as well. So security training that we're always familiar with in office is the in-office environments of offline, on-premise environment, etc. Those doesn't apply all to the home working from home models. How to pivot toward to the remote model as the new normal is a challenge. Also, it's an opportunity for many businesses as well, because simple as online meetings and is already a new technology for many employees to embrace. And this is the area that we need to be well trained through online channels. So we don't miss any configurations or any setups that will we don't normally do to expose us in the internet. So how much harder for data protection in the new model? It is harder because everything go faster, everything go virtual, go public much quicker as well. For we stress on the security trainings a lot, or privacy trainings, but it's really time to move on to a different stage to recap, to make sure the training program is still working for the new environments. There might be new areas for business to focus on for example, even just as simple as data collections or processing, because right now everything the platform is on the platform level. So when everything moves to virtual or hybrid, implementing security tools, some considerations, or whether training for the new virtual tools as well. You just don't deploy, say, hey, we move on the well-known meeting platform, and assuming everybody can do that and deal with the security feature or setting about that. And then configuration is done correctly is the part that often missed when we're trying to stress for the speed. Also, new policy procedures has to be implemented and trained as well, especially in this time. There are a lot of user acceptance practice as well. So new legal and compliance requirements are well communicated. We all heard the recent events on multiple data privacy related, such as the post-SHUM2 effect, and how those process and procedure will impact your existing business in the transfer level. Those also other areas need to be well communicated with the user and employee. So at the end, we definitely helping each other, regardless that's within the organization, within the community, or the greater area and scope. Knowledge sharing as part of what I'm doing right now as well. And then it's really grateful for this event again. We should have a more event and situation like that to help businesses at different levels, small, medium, or large, to collaborate, and then also to enhance each other's knowledge on these areas. Overall, this might be a perfect storm, but we're in this together. Again, thank you, Rebecca, for the invitation. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, ShanShan, for sharing your experience with us on how to navigate this crisis, basically. And thanks for your most interesting presentation as well. I really hope to speak to you soon. Thanks for today.
Thank you.